Think about the last time something looked polished enough that you stopped questioning it. Maybe it was a clean summary, a confident recommendation, a smart looking comparison, or a sharp explanation that sounded like somebody had really done the homework. You probably did not trust it because you verified every claim yourself. You trusted it because it felt like someone competent had put real effort and real care into it. That shortcut used to work reasonably well. Not perfectly, of course, because polished things have always been capable of being wrong. But for a long time, polish usually came bundled with something real underneath it. Good structure, clear writing, confident language, and professional presentation were expensive to produce. They usually meant a person had spent serious time thinking, organizing, revising, and trying to make sense of something before putting it in front of you. And in real life, that mattered because none of us has the time to verify everything. We are always using shortcuts to decide what deserves trust. We look for signs. We look for care. We look for effort. We look for signals that suggest somebody knows what they are talking about. Polish became one of those signals, and for a while, it was a fairly useful one. The problem is not that people use trust shortcuts. The problem is that one of the most common shortcuts just changed. Artificial intelligence made polish cheap. Good writing is cheap now. Clean structure is cheap now. Professional tone is cheap now. Persuasive presentation is cheap now. A polished answer can arrive in seconds, wearing all the visual and verbal signals that used to suggest a person had really worked through the issue, even when the underlying reasoning is generic, shallow, incomplete, or just wrong. That does not mean everything produced with artificial intelligence is bad. Some of it is excellent. Some of it is genuinely useful. That is not the point. The point is that appearance no longer tells you what it used to tell you. The surface got easier to produce than the judgment underneath it. And once that happens, the consequences spread a lot wider than most people realize. This is not just about offices, reports, or presentations. It shows up in everyday life. It shows up in product recommendations that sound researched, health explainers that sound responsible, financial summaries that sound balanced, travel advice that sounds complete, and public commentary that sounds like it came from somebody who really understands the issue. The words are smooth. The structure feels solid. The tone feels calm and informed. The whole thing arrives wearing the costume of credibility. That is the real shift. We are not just dealing with more content. We are dealing with more content that can feel trustworthy before it has earned that trust. And that creates 3 bad reactions. The first bad reaction is to trust it because it looks right. That is the old habit, and it is becoming less reliable by the month. If polish used to be a rough signal of depth, now it can just as easily be a signal of access to a good tool and a decent prompt. The second bad reaction is to swing all the way to cynicism and decide that nothing can be trusted anymore. That is not a solution either. It just leaves people exhausted, suspicious, and easy to manipulate by whoever sounds most emotionally certain. The third bad reaction is to reduce the whole problem to, well, I guess people just need to be more careful. That sounds sensible, but it is not enough. Human beings were never going to verify every polished thing that crossed their path. We did not live that way before, and we are not going to start now. So the real move is not blind trust, and it is not total distrust, and it is not some vague promise to be more careful. The real move is to upgrade the way you decide what deserves trust. If polish is now a weaker signal, then other signals matter more. Traceability matters more. Where did this come from? What is it based on? Can you follow it back to something real? Verification matters more. What part of this was actually checked, and by whom? Context matters more. Does this fit the real situation, or does it just sound broadly reasonable? Accountability matters more. Who stands behind this if it turns out to be wrong? And judgment matters more. Is there any sign that someone actually understands what matters here, including the nuance, the limits, and the trade-offs? That is the shift. The old question was often, does this look good? The better question now is, why should I trust this specifically? That one change will take you a long way, because when polish gets cheap, trust has to become more intentional. You can already see this happening in subtle ways. More people are asking where a summary came from. More people want sources, methods, and reasoning. More people are starting to notice the strange feeling of reading something that sounds complete, but somehow leaves no impression that a real mind wrestled with it. That feeling matters. It is often your first clue that the surface and the substance are no longer moving together. And this is where I think the opportunity is hiding. The people who adapt best to this shift are not going to be the people who panic every time they see polished output. They are going to be the people who get better at asking sharper trust questions. They will know how to pause without becoming paranoid, how to look past the surface without becoming cynical, and how to decide what deserves confidence without demanding certainty. That is a real skill now. So here is something practical to do this week. The next time something polished lands in front of you, whether it is a recommendation, a summary, an explanation, or a piece of advice, pause for a moment before you let the polish lower your guard. Ask yourself what it is built on, what assumptions it is making, what part of it was actually checked, and who owns the outcome if it is wrong. You do not have to become suspicious of everything. You just need better reasons for trust than the surface alone. Because polish used to lower your guard. Now, it should be the moment you ask better questions. What is one place in your life where polished output has become harder to trust?